Screw it, we're doing it live. Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our much delayed by 35 minutes review of Agatha All Along. This is episode 4. This one is called If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. This is specifically for Alice's character.
Yep.
And we get to the house, which is fire! It's the fire stage. All the epitaphs in the house were all witches on fire.
Yes. And she, Alice, reveals that her mother did not actually die on the road. She died on tour road. On the road in a fire, in a hotel fire.
Yeah.
So,
which they hinted at last week with the hallucinations and stuff that was going on.
Was there a fire?
Well, there was a lot of smoke, and she was in the dressing room.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, she was drinking, and so then you kind of thought maybe she drank herself to death or OD'd or something. I didn't put the smoke and the fire together.
I didn't until this episode when they mentioned that she died on the road, and there was the firehouse and stuff like that. We're gonna wander all over the place because I have many different thoughts going on in the vault of my brain right now. But them taking the time to bury Sharon.
Yes.
Mrs. Hart. I have the question to be, when Rio is summoned to the road, because now they need another Earth Witch or Green Witch. Does she come out of Sharon's grave?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I got from everybody's reaction to thinking that Mrs. Hart was a zombie or came back to life or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, because now that you mention that, I was trying to figure out what the point of her was.
Right.
Like, why bring her? I mean, I love her. I love her character.
Right,
she's wacky. But what was the point of bringing her along to have her die in the very first episode?
Yeah.
But if through magic it was like a swap, like they had the road had to, give a body, take a body kind of thing.
Right.
Then that makes sense. Although I still don't necessarily understand. I mean, I guess because Agatha and Rio have some obvious
they have a thing. We're gonna get into
history that she didn't want to bring her, but it seems I don't know.
It
seems slightly unnecessary for all of that.
The only thing that I can think of is that it's not for storytelling reasons; it's for real world reasons. That Aubrey couldn't be there for that part of the filming, and so they needed a mechanism, and they happened to have this kind of already pre-set up thing for them to have Deborah Jo Rupp to come in and have her be there. I don't honestly think that Sharon Mrs. Hart is actually dead. I think that she's actually just gone back to Westview.
I hope so.
I'm keeping my hopes up, but that was the one thing about this episode. You would think it would be the musical number. No, like so on point for the show with all the people who could sing in this show. You knew to have that. You knew they would have multiple.
Oh yeah, and Rio just sitting in the back, just like.
You have to go back. I caught myself in this episode. I actually even said something to you. You have to go back and watch the episode a second time and watch all the shit that's going on in the background.
Yeah, and everybody's facial expressions that aren't necessarily, especially Agatha and Rio's facial expressions.
The side mouth, like,
Yeah.
For those on the podcast,
Yeah.
I'm trying to move my. So when she kept trying to after they buried Mrs. Hart, Agatha was like, let's go.
They hadn't even buried her yet.
Yeah, they
those two got it. Well, they'll catch up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This is the whole time. She's just got this okay, let her go now, and she flips her jacket kind of flourish kind of thing.
Yeah,
And then the second time she really flips it out with the side.
Yeah. I said, let's go.
I said that. I said, good day, sir. Let's talk about the musical number. They get in the house. Alice spends some time talking about in the previous episode. They kind of spent time talking about Alice, and that she really doesn't believe in it anymore because of what happened with her mom. And they come around to the house. They try to get away from that house.
Let's just go the other way.
The other way, and then the house shows up again. The house is 70s decor, and they do a Fleetwood Mac version of The Witch's Road. Now, the only reason I kind of point out the Fleetwood Mac thing is because they spent time on the wall of albums. They spent time with Alice's mom. And Fleetwood Mac was shown, a gold album of Fleetwood Mac was shown on the hallway.
Oh, okay.
It's because I was why are they spending so much time on this?
Yeah.
And then they do this Fleetwood Mac kind of version of the song.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then they had gotten cursed. Kinda. It was Alice carrying her own family curse into the house.
Right. Which left a mark. I mean, Alice had a big scar down her shoulder, and then the rest of them started becoming torn open in the same. They were getting the same wound.
Yep. And the killing of the curse by playing Mom's song, and that Mom's song wasn't it was a version of The Witch's Road, but it was a protection spell for Alice, and they figured it out really quickly. They played the song, they got through it. Somewhere in the process, Teen gets hit in the belly with a big giant piece of glass.
And I didn't it just happened all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He looked down, there was this big chunk of glass or crystal or something sticking out of his side. And I was like, what was that? And then he just kept on playing. I was like, that was really, maybe we need to go back and rewatch it because I don't understand where that came from.
My thought right now is when he got thrown through the window.
Oh,
of the recording,
right.
And they just didn't recognize it until they started playing.
That he looked down. Yeah, maybe he bumped it with his arm or something. Right? Yeah,
because it was might have been under his coat or whatever.
Yeah.
During the entire song, it's Ali On.
Ali On.
I really hope she's the one that's singing. I know it's Catherine Hahn singing.
Yeah.
I really hope that because she could belt it out.
It was amazing.
She was great.
Yeah.
And Patti LuPone kept changing her thing, her instrument. Her instrument.
She was the classic guy in the band's girlfriend who's just standing, tambourine, the triangle. The zills. Like, they don't actually have any musical ability.
The most musically able person in the entire
she's on
cast.
Broadway. Yeah, and she gets the, ding, ding, ding.
I could not stop laughing. The song is amazing. The show is ridiculous, in all the best ways. The song is amazing, but they kept going back to Lila. They kept going back to Lila every time, and she had something different in her hand, and I'm like, oh my god, this is it's so pitch perfect. But they got all of that done fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Like the last episode, it was like at the wire, and then they go down the slide through the oven.
Yeah.
And this one, like, we figured it out really quickly. We play the song. We jam out. We have a cool jam session. The costume director on this show is killing it.
That would be super fun. Like with WandaVision, you get each week is a new thing that you get to play in.
Yep. And they're doing music this time. Well, they've done more musical stuff this time and eras than they're doing like TV shows and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
But so they got it all done, and I'm like, if this feels really quick.
Yeah.
Now there was some setup before they played the song, where Agatha and Rio, who is now there, have a more intimate conversation with just the two of them in the sound booth about why Rio is there, and definitely like, can we have a truce so we can get this done? And Agatha does the Agatha thing and manipulates Rio into saying something, and in the process, they lean into each other. Now, I caught this. I don't know if you caught this, but Rio like leaned over and like was starting to pet her upper thigh, and she said something about the Gold Lame pants or whatever.
Yeah.
She started petting her upper thigh, and then Agatha hits the button, and Rio says for everyone to hear that it is her plan to kill. It's Agatha's plan, but Agatha presents it that it's Rio's plan, that she's going to kill all the witches and take all their power.
Yep.
That is very quickly stepped over until after they finish the song. They lift the curse. They ride the slide out of the piano this time. And they figure out that Teen is hurt. They do a very quick healing spell. Jennifer Kale does a very quick potions healing spell. And then they kind of just gloss over it until later when Agatha, Lila kind of like, I don't forget what you said. About like
right.
There's a thing.
We've had all this drama. That drama's over. Now back to what you said.
Yeah. So that will come up, I think, again next week, or a continuation of building on that process.
Yeah.
In the entire way of Agatha's true intentions for the road has always been to get her power back at whatever cost. But I think the overall story of the show is going to be that she's going to find this sisterhood and not want to take their powers.
Yeah, I think
her family or her coven back together.
I think each of them is going to have their, because last week, Jennifer, it was her house, right? Her challenge, and she felt like she failed because Sharon died, and she kind of failed a little bit in the moment. She forgot something, and then they remembered that you had to have somebody who wasn't poison's blood, and they figured it out and got out. But then she felt bad because Sharon died, and they, she didn't leave him enough time. So then she does a good potion spell on the water to fix Teen, and Lila actually says, "Hey, you did a good job there." Yeah. And so I think each of them, and then Alice, yeah, this was kind of her episode, realizing that Mom wrote this song to protect her from the family curse.
And it was Agatha who figured that out.
Yeah.
And told her. So
but everybody is gonna kind of have their thing. Their like the potions witch was selling, snake oil, and the
Isn't most makeup just snake oil? I mean, I don't wear makeup, so isn't.
But no, it wasn't necessarily makeup. She was selling stuff to, scents to make you feel all these, and That's all, spiritual, whatever. But and Alice, had left the path and she was just working in a Hot Topic or
Yeah,
whatever. And so, yeah, I think each of them is gonna find their way,
yeah.
and then they'll end up being a
Yeah.
coven at the end.
It's just very interesting that why I'm in loving this show. I'm loving this show and the creep fest that we got. Rio's
Yeah.
showing up. It's like perfect for
Yeah.
spooky season.
Yeah.
Like I'm really loving the show. I keep having this thing in the back of my mind that it's the MCU. Everything's connected. Why are we telling this story? Why are we
Right.
why are we trying to redeem Agatha? Or
Right.
are we not trying to redeem Agatha? Like I just
Well, and if you look back on WandaVision, we didn't know. I mean, the first couple episodes were just fun.
Yeah.
And then you start to, there's a little something. Now this, I mean, obviously you've known something's going on here pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think it in the end, is where we'll start to see where it might tie in to the greater MCU.
There's a greater story here.
Yeah.
To be
and
telling.
I feel like even just talking about the story, like I think anyway, we've pretty much figured out the plot of this whole thing, and that maybe they were just, let's just have some fun with this, like they kind of
Yeah.
like they did with WandaVision,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about. So we have the campfire scene. We have Teen. Let's talk about Teen next. So Teen gets healed. They put him in a makeshift lean-to, like sleeping on the road. The campfire. How do they find fire? But they're witches. They probably know how to make fire.
yeah, they just went zzz, and
yeah.
fire.
But Agatha, through the whole process of Teen like falling down from the blood loss and then trying to heal him and then him resting, Agatha is the most distraught we've seen in the
Oh
show.
yeah.
And she is devastated. Catherine Hahn does a great job of showing how much despair she feels that she can't do anything, while her son, with quotey fingers, is recovering from being hurt, from helping her. And when he comes to, she like kind of puts on the facade again, says something nice. He calls her out for saying something nice. She's like, no. And then he asks about her real son,
Yep.
Nicholas Scratch, what really happened. And she gives this moment of, like, she's not ready to talk about it, but it's there in the back of her head because it keeps coming up. It came up in her hallucination. It came up when Jennifer Kale was talking about it with Teen, about that the rumor is that she gave up her child for the Darkhold. And she gets up and leaves. And that kind of leaves it for Teen in the rest of the episode.
Yeah, and she definitely she went from worried face to putting back on the Agatha persona.
Yeah,
and got up and walked away.
Yeah, it was definitely noticeable to me that she was in really bad, like she was devastated that he had gotten hurt in this process.
Yeah.
And she freaked out like a mom. And then later on, Rio, I want to talk about that scene so much. I've been trying to save it. But Rio says, Teen is not your son.
Right.
And like confirming for Agatha what I think she thought in the back of her head the entire time. But Agatha hearing it from somebody else who is probably the most knowledgeable about that situation than anybody else, because they talked about the not the siphon, the thing where they can't find out what.
It's a curse, but it's a.
I can't remember what they called it.
Yeah. hex. Yeah.
We're all around the word. We're all around the word. Be nice in the comments. But they talked about like Teen even asked Agatha like, "Did you put this on me?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "No." Well, even if I did, I wouldn't know it because that's the thing about this hex is that it's forever blocks the meaning of or the true nature of whatever they're trying to put the hex on, and so she even if she did do it, she wouldn't be able to remember doing it. And then they also talked about like the way to take it off is the actual it's no longer needed, so it will self-destruct when it is no longer needed.
Right. So
he's being hidden for a reason, whatever that reason is.
Right.
We don't know what
and
it is.
if she did put it on him, then she's got to get there on her own.
Yep.
Like remember what happened or why he is who he is.
Yeah.
On her own, and
Yeah.
then it will. So we have that reveal.
Yeah. So he is not Agatha's. Now we can talk about unreliable narrators and how Rio is just as manipulative as Agatha is. In that moment between Rio and Agatha, though, that's a very pure moment. I don't think that is because the way Aubrey's been playing Rio, she's always throwing barbs and poking at everybody and stirring the pot.
If she's in on it, that she does know that Agatha put it on him, and she knows why, then she may be saying that to protect her.
Yeah.
To keep her from going there. Like if something horrible, and so this hex, whatever, was put on him, and Agatha doesn't remember. It's like Scarlet Witch in the cherry blossom orchard.
Yeah.
Right? She is in this nice little world where she doesn't, have to remember the fact that she doesn't have her kids anymore.
Right.
So
even though she's doing some nasty things to try to make that all happen.
Right.
Let's talk about the campfire scene, because back to our conversation about the kind of the process of what the show is doing. We have our first kind of sit around the campfire and tell campfire stories. Everybody kind of coming together. Everybody kind of starting to maybe build a little kinship with each other, a little bit of trust with each other, all of that kind of stuff. They all telling their stories of what it means for each of them to be a witch while we're having this conversation with Agatha and Teen going on. So it's cutting back and forth.
And they're all showing off their scars.
And showing off their scars. I really love that they were telling, like, we were getting parts of a story. Like, Lila had gotten bit by a vampire. Yeah. I took one of his teeth. And, we got to talk about Lila for a second, too. But, like, that whole showing off their scars and kind of bonding. And even Rio got in on the kind of the conversation about, Lila said, all this misleading information, like we talked to goats and we have 3 nipples, and Rio is like, I have 3 nipples. You want to see? I haven't covered in nipples. Do you want to see? And then they cut back, and then we're like, no, we want to see the. All right, whatever. Yeah, also in the campfire scene, but also in the house, Lila a couple times in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah, went somewhere else.
Well, I'm not really sure if that's a continuation of if that's part of her power, because that's like she
I don't think so, because
she's like a fortune teller, so she kind of knows she can do
true.
the future. She did it a couple times in the second episode,
but she doesn't realize she's doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's what's throwing me off with that.
Yeah.
But maybe that is what something is speaking through her, trying to. And now we have to rewatch everything to put together what she's saying, because it's so like just kind of out of left field, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
that you don't
You don't have you don't have a frame of reference right now.
yeah, to
Yeah.
like maybe put all these little, because they're just completely non sequitur, just blurts of and you're like, what? And then and Nave, the person she's talked to, even says
Yeah,
that they're
even
like,
says something.
what?
Yep,
She's
yep.
like, what? What?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we need to go back and start putting them.
Yeah.
What she's saying all together.
We need to start making notes instead of just having stuff in our heads and just like sitting there and start like, okay, she said this, okay, and then later she said, okay. In the campfire story, they're all showing off their scars. Agatha comes back over, says Teen's doing okay. They're like, okay, Agatha, you show us your scars. Knitting needle through the elbow. Have you ever heard of the Ladies of Liberty?
Yes.
Kinda
Mothers of Liberty?
Mothers of
Ladies
Liberty? It might have been Mothers of Liberty. Have you ever heard of them? No. There's a reason for that. Kind of like I killed them all because I got hit with the
knitting
needle. I was trying to work it out in my head. Kind of a shut up Moms of Liberty. No, that's not what they're called. What are they called? The far right mothers for like don't teach our children anything.
I don't
remember what they're called. Anyways,
blocked it from my head.
Yeah. But then Agatha Rio finally says, "I have a scar. I had someone I loved, I cared about very much. I took a job. I did that job, and now that person hates me, and she is my scar." And Rio and Agatha are sharing a log together, and they pan over to everybody else, and then they pan back, and Agatha's kind of looking off to the distance, but Rio's looking up at her. And Agatha's like, I gotta go stretch my legs. Now, we all know you were just walking around with Teen and talking. You don't need to stretch your legs again. You're avoiding the conversation.
Right.
That's when Lila told her, I heard, we remember what you said.
Yeah.
Agatha goes off. Rio chases her off, not into the woods because you can't leave the road, but off to a more secluded part of the road.
Right.
And they hug. Not a hug of sisterness or of caring for your friend, like a long lost love kind of hug. Rio first playing with her hair, and then Agatha turning around and they hug, and then Agatha tries to kiss her, and that's when Rio says, he's not your son. So a lot of the conversation after the first two episodes was people kind of pointing out the love story that was kind of being played out, like star-crossed lovers coming back together, kind of how it was in the first couple of episodes, and a lot of people were like, considering what we had with Acolyte and some people having a problem with, two women loving each other in that show, and some of the other things that had kind of gone on in the MCU with lack of representation, I'm very interested what the response would be, and most everybody's all like, "Yeah, we're here for it." And Aubrey said in an interview, "That's why I'm on the show. I get to have a love affair with Catherine Hahn. Of course, that's why I'm on the show. That is the reason." And so to have this, a little bit more knowledge for us as the audience of this story between the two of them, and why Agatha really does hate her, and why Rio probably reciprocates that hate because of things that she decided to do for her own well-being or whatever, and it kind of
right. I mean, we don't know, right? We don't
right.
know what that. We can speculate that, that she the rumor is that Agatha sold her son for the Darkhold, and her and Rio have apparently in the past had a relationship. Rio knows something about her son
Yeah.
because she said
Yeah.
he's not your son, and that she took this job and hurt this person that she
Yeah.
loved, and so you can kind of sort of put those pieces together and in what you think the puzzle might look like, but it could be something completely different.
Right, right. And
too.
I'm I'm gonna bring up Acolyte again. I liked the mystery of Acolyte, of not really knowing what the full story was until the last episode, and so I'm here for this kind of same kind of conversation. There is something bigger going on that all of these women and teen are connected to one way or another, and they're all being drawn to the same thing for different reasons, but they're all being drawn to something much bigger than whatever is going on, than they think that's going on. And only Rio has 20% of the story, and Agatha's got 5, and Teen's got 2, and Lily's got 2.
Yeah.
Like that, it's going to be a bit for us to get through. Now, this is episode 4 of 9. So we've got some time still to kind of play with this idea of why they're being drawn to this thing, whatever that thing happens to be, and the reasons that put them on this road in the first place. I don't think are actually the reasons for the overall story. That's their personal reasons. I want to save my mom. I want to get my mojo back. I want to be able to make potions again. Like all of that.
Right.
There's all selfish reasons, but there's a bigger reasons why it's these specific people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
One story I want to tell outside of the show, but also kind of part of the show, that is a real world thing. In a interview this week, I think it was this week, maybe it was last week. I just happened to see it this week. Aubrey Plaza was out promoting the show, and this story got out that while they were filming this show, Aubrey said, "I got a play on Broadway for a short stint in New York," and Patti LuPone said, "You're going to come." Patti LuPone said, "You're going to come stay with me." And so Patti took care of Aubrey for the run of their show, including making her dinner every night and washing her clothes for her, including her underwear. And like she was Broadway mom for Aubrey.
Perfect.
While she stayed in New York for the run of this play.
Yeah.
And so they're like besties now, I guess. I don't know like how that all works, but I was just like, a lot of the Marvel actors, specifically the first 6, the big 6, are all friends outside of the show. And it's the same with Tom Holland and Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. They're all buddies. Like everybody is connected to each other and have stayed friends with each other. Dave Bautista, Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, like all of them they all have this kinship with each other that is exceeded beyond the actual making of the thing that they were a part of. And I think that is a thing that doesn't get really talked about with the MCU, but is refreshing to hear.
Yeah. I mean, that usually means that because there's plenty of actors out there who were on major projects like this, like Harry Potter. I mean, they all are still, most of them are still friends or friendly or whatever.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, the same thing, but it tells me that the environment that they were in while filming these multiple movies were generally good environments.
Yeah.
So generally, the directors were jerks. The just the working environment was good.
It was good. Now, some cynics will say out there, like they all signed 8 movie deals and they had to fulfill those movie deals and whatever. You can get out of contracts. It's not easy, but you can do it. It's not impossible.
Well, and it doesn't.
Stuff like that.
Doesn't matter because you could do that. You can phone it in for the last 3 and never talk to anybody from that.
Right,
again.
and I bring it up because a lot of people are like, I must say a lot. There are some very loud people on the internet that feel like the MCU is down, but I don't think it's down when I turn around and I hear stories about all these people who want to continue to make things. Sebastian Stan, as part of his promoting of his 2 movies that he's got coming out, defended the MCU, and he loves the storytelling process and he loves the movie making process with everybody who's involved. So the people who are involved are loving what is happening and are loving the interaction they're having with all of their fellow actors.
Right.
I just think that's awesome. Like, we have friends in the industry. They all talk about it's like summer camp. You have a great time with people for 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever, and then you really don't see them ever again unless you run into them at a Starbucks later in life.
Yeah.
These people all hang out with each other, which is you can tell by that camaraderie is portrayed on the screen in multiple ways and multiple locations. I just think it's a really cool story. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
That is it. We went the same length as the episode. We're right on par. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments down below. Please be nice. That is a requirement on here. If you're on the Spotify feed, please follow us on Spotify. Share it with your friends for the audio listeners. On the visual side of YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell for notifications. We're going to do Fui Dumla, Joker.
Now you've.
We're doing the Joker 2 movie tomorrow. That's getting some fun reviews. And so we're uploading stuff all the time. So hit the bell for notifications when we get stuff. And then we're on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm probably going to cut that last little bit out for TikTok. Until next time, cult member. It's free. It doesn't mean anything. It just helps us out a ton. Until next time, cult members. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.